Hello, and welcome to your Sister in Elections, where today I'm going to be making a Senate video looking at the current polling data and essentially the general complexion of the Senate map, which is going to be predicting the Senate outcome for the 2020 election. And as you can see, I've just left it as the solid Republican states and the solid Democratic states have only put one in, and that is that Doug Jones is almost guaranteed to lose his seat. The last poll said Tommy Tuberville, the Republican challenger, is going to be up by almost 20 points. So I can't see Doug Jones having any realistic chance of retaining his seat in the deep South state. However, other than that, every other seat that you could say is was a competitive seat is currently filled in as a toss-up, which I will be filling in as I go through polls used from 538.com. And I'm just going to go over to their Senate election. I've seen quite a lot of YouTube channels look at this over the past few days because I believe they released this at the start of the week. And they are saying that the Democrats are slightly favored to win the Senate. And this is essentially going over polling, fundraising, which has been very, very positive for the Democrats, especially in recent days following the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and expert opinions, which have also been, accredited into achieving this overall rating. And it says the average outcome is 50.7, so if you want to round that up, 51 seats for the Democrats. But realistically, if Joe Biden does win the election, which at the moment the chances are roughly 7 in 10, but of course, this is before the debates. The debates start next week, and I think that's going to help tighten up the race a bit. But at the moment, the Democrats only need 50 seats. If Joe Biden wins, they would need 51 if Donald Trump does win re-election. And yeah, I'm going to be going onto the map now and filling all the possible competitive seats. Now, first of all, I'm just going to fill in the likely seats that are likely to go to a certain party, and this would be Texas, John Cornyn, not a proper, strong Democratic challenger. Of course, in the presidential level, there's been talks that Texas could flip to the Democrats. I don't really see that happening. I think Trump has definitely secured his base there, but that's for another video. So John Cornyn is, almost certain to hold onto his seat, as well as Mitch McConnell. Nationally, he might be the most unpopular senator, but in his home state of Kentucky, even though Amy Graff is definitely a strong candidate and has been doing well fundraising-wise, Kentucky is a deep red state, is not going to be voting against Mitch McConnell, who for most of the conservatives in the state has been an amazing senator. So they will definitely keep him in the Senate. And I think this could be his last term. He's getting on now, but yeah, he will definitely, according to the polling data, he is going to secure his seat in the Senate. And I'm also going to be characterizing two Democratic states in the likely column, and that would be Colorado and Arizona. Both of these would be flips from the Republicans, but throughout almost the entirety of 2020, we've seen people moving away from Cory Gardner in Colorado, people moving away from Martha McSally in Arizona, and going towards Mark Kelly, the very popular candidate in Arizona. He's done an amazing job of fundraising. The polls show him up, constantly. There's not been a single poll that has Martha McSally up in ages. And the same with John Hickenlooper, former governor, of course, very popular candidate in this, especially as soon as he dropped out the presidential race. There's always, a sort of aura around him that he was going to win back the Colorado Senate seat for the Democrats. And the polls, show them not exactly, consistently above 5 points, but there's been tons of polls that have showed them 7 points up, 8 points up, even double digits at certain points. I think the leaders shrunk for the leaders shrunk for John Hickenlooper, but he still holds a likely chance to win the seat. So this would both be characterized as likely for the Democrats. Now we're going to move on to the lean seats, sorry, and we're going to quickly characterize two. Actually, we're going to be characterizing three Republican states here, or Republican-held seats, and that would be Georgia, Kansas, and Montana. Now, all of these have been targeted as possible flips for the Democrats, but when I mean possible, I mean, hopeful flips. They're all, solidly Republican states, other than Georgia, in presidential election. And Montana, the only reason it was even competitive at the start is that the former Democratic governor, actually, I believe he is still the Democratic governor, but he is term limited, so he cannot run again, is running against Steve Daines, the incumbent. But as he's a as he is a popular incumbent, maybe not wildly popular, but popular enough that it's going to be a very, very hard race for Steve Bullock to make any proper indents into Steve Daines' reputation and lead. And the same with Kansas. You wouldn't really be seeing this much in normal Senate election, but due to the poor performance of the governor, which the Democrats won back in 2018, and the controversy with the failed Republican governor candidate trying to run for the Senate seat, he did not win his primary. Another candidate did, but it's still showing, a lean towards the Republicans, but it's not a very strong lead. I've seen the most recent elections in 538 had it about a 2-point lead for the Republican candidate, and I believe it is Bollier, I think something like that, the Democratic candidate. And in Kansas, making it competitive is not a good sign for the Republicans overall. And in Georgia, John Ossoff is running a good campaign against David Perdue, but I think David Perdue has quite a big base in Georgia. And even though John Ossoff is definitely a respectable candidate and he's going to make the race competitive, the polls are showing a consistent lead, 3-4 points for David Perdue, and that is what I can see happening come November. And now we're going to be going into some likely Democrat states, and these are, somewhat interesting to look at. I mean, I'm actually going to put Michigan back into the likely column. Peters has quite a strong lead against James, who ran against him or a different Democratic senator in Michigan. I think it was a different one back in 2018, and he lost by about 4 points or something. And the polls are consistently showing James is going to win re-election by about 3 or 4 points. So the lead is not huge, but it is strong enough to put it in the likely category, given he has the incumbency advantage. These are going to be quite surprising ones that are currently put in the lean column for the Democrats, and that would be North Carolina as well as Maine. Now, these have both been the properly competitive and targeted seats by the Democrats. They put a lot of funding into these areas as they see that there could be a definite shift. Tom Tillis being the one-term Republican and Susan Collins having 3 terms, and she wasn't even competed by a Democrat last term. She was a very, very solid bipartisan candidate. Of course, that has, fallen in recent years, but Brett Kavanaugh confirmation, etc., and siding with Trump in many votes, which has definitely ruined her reputation of being a bipartisan candidate. And the people of Maine are showing that they want to elect Sarah Gideon, the Maine Speaker of the House, and Cal Cunningham, a state senator, is doing very well in North Carolina. Both of these candidates have been consistently leading in the polls. I think Cal Cunningham is doing slightly better than Sarah Gideon, but you will see him leads of 4 or 5 points, and it's going to be very hard for these Senate candidates to get back in contention to secure their re-election. And at this point, the Democrats are holding the Senate majority with a 50 to 47 lead if Joe Biden does win the election. If he doesn't, and Joe Biden and Donald Trump, then we'll have to see what these other states look like. So Alaska is currently rated as a tilt. The latest poll, there's not been too much polling in Alaska, and the latest poll from 538 showed a dead even tie between Al Gross and Sullivan. So it's a bit hard to say the polling data is not consistent enough and regular enough to show a proper pattern. But I think it's fair enough to say that with the incumbency, Alaska is definitely a last hope for the Democrats to win. And the polling data, if you have to go back to March, the previous one, I think the most recent one was taken at the end of August. So the polling data has not been, that common and that well done in Alaska. So I think it's fair to say this will most likely be a Republican seat, but going off the most recent polling data, it is currently characterized as a dead even or tilt Republican Senate seat. And the same with South Carolina. A year ago, you would see Lindsey Graham easily winning this seat. I believe he won it by 7 points back in 2014. And you would think 1 year ago this would be the exact same way. It would be sailing to victory. But a very good campaign by Jamie Harrison in recent months has definitely tightened the race. It's gone from being not even considered to be a possible flip for the Democrats to one that is within 1 or 2 points. Graham still holds a very, very narrow lead, but this is like 1-2 points in the last couple of polling. And there are certain polls that have Jamie Harrison dead even with Lindsey Graham, and this is definitely he has been quite a divisive character in recent years, but he will probably still hold on to a seat, but it will be a very, very razor-thin margin come November. Now, this all leaves Iowa. The Democrats or the Republicans could still win the Senate, depending on who won the presidency, if the Republicans won Iowa. But at the moment, the current polling does show Iowa going very narrowly to the Democratic challenger. Joni Ernst, the Republican incumbent here, has run a decent campaign, but she's being outfunded by the Democratic challenger. And of course, in 2018, 3 of the 4 Iowa House seats went to the Democrats, and the only one that has not gone, which will probably stay with the Republicans. It does show quite a significant shift from Iowa, a state that voted for Trump by 10 points back in 2016, has definitely become much more middle of the road, like it was under Obama. And the possible winning of this Senate seat would put the Democrats in charge of the Senate, which is something that has not been seen for quite a long time. I believe you have to go back to possibly 2012 or 2014, the last time Democrats held Senate, and this would be a very, very big win for them if they could manage to overturn a 4-seat deficit, which they would need to confirm the Senate without the hopes of Joe Biden winning against Trump. So, thank you for watching. Thank you for 50 subscribers as well. I hit that the other day. Hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all again soon.